Imagine, it's deep midnight outside. The city is quiet, but you're still awake. Once again, you open your laptop and visit real estate websites. It's become a painful habit, scrolling through endless lists of homes you'll likely never buy. You scroll page after page, and reality starts to set in. Every property that doesn't look like it'll fall apart during an inspection costs at least $500,000. You look at these numbers and try to grasp the scale of the tragedy. $500,000 for a regular drywall box? This isn't luxury housing, it's just the entry ticket to the homeowners club, and it's getting more expensive by the minute. You close your eyes and start doing that mental math against your salary. You wonder, did you miss a major promotion, or has the entire real estate market collectively lost its mind? Spoiler, it's not you, it's the math. And today we're going to break down why this math has become absolutely brutal.
Imagine, it's deep midnight outside. The city is quiet, but you are still awake. Once again, you open your laptop and visit real estate websites. It's become a painful habit, scrolling through endless lists of homes you'll likely never buy. You scroll page after page, and reality starts to set in. Every property that doesn't look like it'll fall apart during an inspection costs at least $500,000. You look at these numbers and try to grasp the scale of the tragedy. $500,000 for a regular drywall box? This isn't luxury housing, it's just the entry ticket to the homeowners club, and it's getting more expensive by the minute. You close your eyes and start doing that mental math against your salary. You wonder, did you miss a major promotion, or has the entire real estate market collectively lost its mind? Spoiler, it's not you, it's the math. And today we're going to break down why this math has become absolutely brutal. You walk into a house that a real estate agent enthusiastically called a great starter option. But reality hits your nose with the smell of old carpet. You look at this kitchen and see laminate countertops from 2003 that have already started to swell from moisture. Only one thought pulses in your head, and for this I have to pay $500,000? You run your hand over beige carpeting that saw better days before you were even born. In the basement, there's that same imitation wood paneling that was fashionable in the last century. Everything here screams economy and age. But the agent is unshakable. He calls it a house with character and renovation potential. But the truth is, the character of this house is just a way to justify an inflated price. You stand here and realize the market is so broken that mediocrity is started to cost as much as luxury. And the scariest part, thousands of people are lining up to sign the paperwork for this starter nightmare. My name is Alex, and today I'm going to do what realtors and mortgage brokers hate most. We'll push emotions aside, forget about cozy nests, and just do the math. Who can actually afford a $500,000 house in 2026? Not the person the bank graciously grants a loan to, but the one who can actually live in it without counting pennies until payday. There's a huge difference between qualifying for bank limits and sleeping soundly at night. The bank doesn't care if you eat plain rice for the next 30 years. They just want you to sign the papers and pay the interest. But I want you to understand, a mortgage shouldn't turn your life into an endless financial survival simulator. We'll go through every figure, from hidden taxes to the real cost of a water heater exploding at midnight. By the end of this video, you'll have an honest answer. And I'm warning you now, many of you won't like this answer, because numbers are the only thing in the world of real estate that simply don't know how to lie. Let's start with an uncomfortable reality. In most major cities, $500,000 is now just the entry threshold. It won't get you a mansion with a pool, columns, and a guest wing. For that money, you're buying a basic standard, about 1,200 to 1,300 square feet of living space, if you're lucky. It's a box house, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and a backyard the size of a beach towel. You will literally hear your neighbor coughing through the thin wall or starting their car, and your kids will play on a patch of land barely large enough for a swing set. In cities like Denver, Austin or the Chicago suburbs, this is considered a normal offer for ordinary people. $500,000 is what's demanded from a young family today just for the opportunity to have a roof over their heads in a relatively decent neighborhood. And it's frightening, because in recent years, the price has multiplied, but the build quality and square footage have not. We are paying more and more for less and less, and that is the first serious crack in that American dream.
Now let's look at the other side of the coin, your real income. Median household income today is about $84,000 a year, and mind you, that's before the government takes its share of taxes. This is where the true mathematical absurdity begins. We are asking ordinary people to buy assets that cost 6 and sometimes 7 times their annual earnings. Historically, a healthy house price-to-income ratio has always hovered around 3 to 1, at most 4 to 1 if you live in a very expensive state. Today, we are in 6 to 1 territory and higher. If this ratio seems absolutely insane to you, congratulations, you're one of the few who still possesses common sense. But the system continues to insist that everything is fine. Everyone around you whispers, "Do it." The mortgage broker sends an approval, parents remember how they bought their first home for peanuts in the 80s, and bloggers teach you how to invest with zero capital. The problem is that they are all either deeply mistaken or outright lying. And this lie begins with the very first step, your down payment.
Let's talk about the down payment, the place where most homeowning dreams shatter. The good old rule our parents grew up with says you need to put down 20%. For a $500,000 house, that is exactly $100,000 in cash. Let me repeat that. $100,000 in liquid cash that must simply be sitting in your account. Do you know how much the average person has in their savings account today? About $8,000. This means you aren't just falling a bit short, you are physically missing another $92,000. And before you say, "It's okay, I'll just buckle down and save up," let's turn on the calculator and look at the real speed of savings. If you earn $84,000 a year and, by some miracle, manage to save 10% of your gross salary, which almost no one does, it would take you 12 years to collect that sum. This is assuming house prices don't go up a single cent during those 12 years, but we both know that's a lie. Prices will launch into space faster than you can save even the first half of that down payment. So, you realize that gathering $100,000 is a fantasy, and you decide to take a different path, put down 5 or 10%. Congratulations, you've just triggered a hidden trap called PMI, Private Mortgage Insurance. This is a monthly penalty you pay to the bank for the crime of not being rich enough to put down the full amount up front. It is literally a poverty tax. It will cost you between $200 and $400 a month. Think about it. You are paying extra money every month for insurance that protects the bank, not you. The bank is afraid you'll go bankrupt, and they make you pay for their fear. You begin homeownership from a position of financial punishment. This is money thrown down the drain. It doesn't reduce your principal debt. It doesn't go toward your house. It's just an entry fee into a system that was set up against you from the start. And this is only the first of many black holes in your budget that you simply didn't notice while dreaming of your own lawn and a cozy white fence. Now let's move to the most important part, the real monthly payment. Let's say you scrape together a 10% down payment. That's $50,000. You're left with a loan for $450,000. At current rates, around 6 to 7%, your basic mortgage payment will be between $2,700 and $2,850. Remember that number. It's only the beginning. But in that sum, there isn't a single cent for property taxes, which on average will add another $500 a month. There's no homeowner's insurance, which has skyrocketed due to climate changes, and will add at least another $300. And remember, these figures grow every year, and you have no way to influence that. We've already crossed the threshold of $3,600 a month, and we haven't even turned on the lights in this house or opened the water tap. Your cozy dream of a $500,000 house is starting to turn into a voracious monster that eats up the lion's share of your income before you even buy groceries for the week. Do you still think you own this house, or is it starting to own you?
But there's something else. Something that everyone magically forgets until their water heater explodes at 11 o'clock on a Sunday night. That is repair and maintenance. The golden rule of the industry says you should set aside at least 1% of the home's value per year for unforeseen breakdowns. For a $500,000 home, that's $5,000 a year, or another $417 every month that should be sitting in your reserve fund. A house is not a passive asset that just sits there and grows in value. It's a living, capricious mechanism that is constantly striving to fall apart. Roof, foundation, pipes, heating system, everything has an expiration date. If you didn't budget those $400 in advance, every breakdown will mean new credit card debt. The house begins to own your time and your peace of mind. You turn into the eternal repairman of your own debt pit. And admit it, this is nothing like that picture of a glass of wine on the terrace they sold you in the promotional brochure.
To make sure this doesn't all seem like dry textbook numbers, let's meet the people I call the Johnsons. They are a young couple of ambitious professionals. He's 32, she's 31. Together, they earn $160,000 a year. In any city in the world, that's a solid income, well above average. They are the true elite of the working class. The Johnsons are convinced that a $500,000 house is absolutely within their means. They got bank approval, congratulations from the realtor, and finally, the coveted keys. Looking at their new bright house with panoramic windows and a modern kitchen, it's hard not to be envious. It seems like they've hacked the code of life and received their prize. $160,000 a year sounds like huge money, until you start spending it in today's market conditions. The Johnsons don't know yet that by hanging those keys on the hook, they've signed a sentence for their lifestyle for the next 30 years. Right now, we will follow their money and see how the American dream turns into a mathematical trap that's almost impossible to escape.
Let's take a closer look at their $160,000 income. Sounds solid, right? But then Uncle Sam enters the game. After federal and state taxes, Social Security contributions, and modest pension deductions, their gross money turns into a net $9,500 a month. This is their real fuel, the energy on which the entire mechanism of their life must run. Now let's look at our calculation. $4,367 go toward housing. In one fell swoop, nearly half of their hard-earned money vanishes. Bam! You're left with $5,133. At first glance, it's not a small amount. No, the Johnsons live in the suburbs, and that means life there is expensive by definition. They have no choice but to keep spending. This is where the magic of disappearing money begins. You haven't even bought a loaf of bread, filled up the car, or paid for the internet, yet half of your income is already split between the bank and the state. You work 40 to 60 hours a week, but the first 2 weeks of every month, you are working exclusively for your house. To earn this money, the Johnsons have to commute. In the suburbs, nothing is within walking distance. Here, a car is not a luxury. It's a shackle that allows you to reach the office. 2 car loans, that's minus $800 a month. Insurance for 2 cars, another $250. Gas for endless highway trips, $300. Moving on, food. For a family trying to eat at least somewhat healthily, $800 a month is a very conservative estimate in 2026. Add utilities to that. Electricity, water, gas for a large house, high-speed internet, and mobile service. That's at least another $450. Your balance is melting rapidly before your eyes. And we haven't even touched the most interesting part, student loans and insurance that the employer doesn't fully cover, another minus $1,000. And here is the result. The successful Johnson family is left with $1,500 for everything else, for clothes, doctors, and, God forbid, savings. They have officially become the rich poor. And this is where the psychologically toughest part begins. The Johnsons have $1,500 left. Out of this, they need to buy clothes, pay for dentist visits, and, if they ever want to retire, save at least something. Every purchase now becomes a subject of debate. A $7 cup of coffee on the way to work no longer feels like a trifle. It's a symbol of what they can't afford. A single dinner at a restaurant on a Friday night is now perceived as a financial crime against their own budget. They live in a $500,000 house, but they feel more financially strapped than when they were students living in a rented apartment. This condition is called being house poor. You have a beautiful asset that grows in value on paper, but in reality, it sucks every cent of liquidity out of you. You can't go on vacation because you're afraid the AC might break. You can't switch to a more interesting but lower-paying job because the bank won't wait. You've become a hostage of your own success, and the walls of this house are slowly starting to close in.
Now imagine what happens when the thing no one wants to think about on the day they sign the mortgage occurs. The job market cools down, the company undergoes restructuring, and the Johnsons receive a layoff notification. Just one letter turns their home from a fortress into a debt prison. They have no financial cushion because all their spare money went toward taxes, insurance, and that buckled laminate that had to be fixed. In the world of a $500,000 mortgage, you have no room for error. You have no right to be sick or depressed. The bank doesn't care how loyal an employee you were. They need their $4,300 check on the first of every month. The irony is that the house, which was supposed to be their main asset and protection, now becomes their primary threat. Without a job, they can hold out for a month at most. Then the panic begins. They look at their beautiful walls and realize they don't own them. They are just renting this lifestyle from the bank, and the rent just became unaffordable. Welcome to a reality where home ownership is just an illusion of control. Many people think, if I can't pay, I'll just sell the house and take my money. It sounds logical, but reality is much harsher. It's called a liquidity trap. To sell a house for $500,000, you need to pay real estate agents a commission, usually 6%. That's $30,000 that simply evaporate. Add transfer taxes, closing costs, and pre-sale repairs. In the end, just to break even, your home must have appreciated by at least 10% since the time of purchase. And what if the market went down? What if neighboring houses are selling for less? You suddenly realize that your asset is an anchor. You owe the bank more than your house is worth on the open market. You can't move to another state for a new job. You can't start over. You are literally chained to these walls. The Johnsons now understand the entrance to the American dream costs $50,000, but the exit can cost you your entire financial life. Now let's say out loud what is considered heresy in the world of homeowners. Renting is not throwing money away. Renting is the price you pay for your mobility and your peace of mind. When you rent, your maximum financial risk is limited to the amount of the rent. Boiler broke? That's the landlord's problem. Property taxes went up? That's the owner's headache. Look at the math of renting in 2026. Renting a similar house is often 30 or even 40% cheaper than paying a mortgage with all its hidden costs. If you take that $1,500 difference that the Johnsons give to the bank and insurers and simply invest it in an index fund, in 10 years, your capital might turn out much larger than a ghostly equity in concrete. Renting gives you something the Johnsons don't have, the ability to pack your bags tomorrow and move wherever they pay more. You aren't tied to one location. You aren't a slave to a 30-year contract. In today's world, flexibility is worth much more than the right to call a pile of bricks your own. Being a wealthy renter is often much more profitable than being a poor homeowner. Let's be brave and compare two paths over 20 years. On one side, the Johnsons' house. Yes, in 20 years it will be worth more, but subtract the interest to the bank, taxes, insurance, and endless repairs. Your real return on invested capital often turns out lower than inflation. You've simply parked your money in concrete that requires constant maintenance. Now look at the invest the difference strategy. If you rent and disciplinedly invest those $1,500 a month which you saved from mortgage slavery into the broad stock market, the magic of compound interest starts working wonders. Money starts making money. No leaking roofs, no property taxes, and no attachment to one city. In 20 years, you'll have a capital on your account that is fully liquid. You could buy 3 such houses with it, or you could simply live off the dividends anywhere on the planet. The irony is that the path to true wealth often lies through giving up the ultimate symbol of wealth, your own home. Real freedom doesn't smell like freshly mown lawn. It smells like the freedom of choice that only cash can provide. So does all this mean that a $500,000 house is always a bad idea? No,
But it's a bad idea if you're buying it because that's what you're supposed to do, or because the bank said you could afford it. Buy a house when your numbers are singing, not crying. Buy it if you have $100,000 for a down payment that isn't your last cent. Buy it if your payment, including all taxes, doesn't exceed 25% of your real net income. And most importantly, buy it as a place to live, not as an investment that's supposed to save you. Remember, a $500,000 house in 2026 is a luxury, not a basic right. Don't let the real estate market dictate what your freedom should look like. Sometimes the boldest financial move you can make is to say no to the system and remain a renter of your own future. The choice is yours. Be smarter than the numbers. In the description below this video, I've left the calculator we used today. Plug in your numbers, not mine, not the bank's, but your real expenses. Look at the final total and honestly ask yourself, does this house make me stronger or does it make me a slave? Write in the comments what mortgage rate you're being offered today and how much is actually left at the end of the month. Let's create a zone of honesty here, which is so lacking in the real estate market. Subscribe if you want to see the math where everyone else only sees pretty pictures. My name is Alex, and I'm not here to sell you a house. I'm here so that you keep your life. See you in the next episode, where we'll break down why apartment investing in 2026 is the biggest bubble of our time. See you soon. But what if I told you that the problem isn't your income or even